Good afternoon. This is the Entrepreneur Wilderness Radio Show, and your host today is Oyeno Alubala. My guest today is Meera Shah, who hails from London, UK. Just to give you Meera's background, if you don't know her already, Meera's it comes from the corporate world, where she was very successful, spanning from FMCGs, which is basically fast-moving consumer goods, if for those who don't know, such as Unilever, to blue chip global banks such as Goldman Sachs and HSBC. So you can see she's worked at a very high level. Meera's decision to become a career coach was a very natural and exciting step for her. Whilst Meera was very successful in her career, Meera really wanted to work for herself and have the flexibility and freedom to do things in her own way. Meera also found the corporate environment a bit stifling, as she missed the ability to completely be herself at work and to engage with people on a deeper level. Meera also wanted to be very successful, more than what a job would provide, and Meera wanted to do this whilst doing something she really enjoyed. Welcome to the show, Meera.
Thanks, Oyenu.
So, straight out the gates. So you have a very high level background in terms of being in the corporate world, and now you have your own venture. Can you take us through the steps that you took to be able to be in this position that you are now presently?
Yeah, so I think most people after a few years in the corporate world, a lot of people suddenly decide that, they for the reasons I mentioned that you've kindly explained, that I felt a bit stifled, I wanted to have more money, I wanted to be my own boss, I wanted flexibility. So I decided, it was time for me to branch out and do my own thing. And so I looked to my passions, as they say, and did quite a lot of soul searching. And I've always been interested in personal development. So what I did was I decided to become a life coach. And so I took some time out, did a life coach training course, and I did all my training and experience. And then I thought, hey, I've worked for so many years, so I'll be successful at the next thing I do. I didn't have a ton of savings. I had a few savings, but not a lot. But, with my blinkers on, I decided to quit my job and I went into life coaching full time. Only to realize it was about a year down the line, I'd used up all my savings and I didn't have any money. But what I didn't realize is that to start up something new,
Mm,
it would take you at least 1 or 2 years to really generate any kind of money unless you have a lot of capital to throw at it.
true, true.
And I think I kind of just went in thinking, yeah, this is something I want to do. I'll be good at it. And I didn't think too much and I just went for it.
You just
And I think, yeah, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs are really passionate about what they do. And in the moment, they get so excited and carried away.
mm,
And they read these great books about follow your passion and you'll be successful.
yes, yes.
So, you think, okay, that's going to be me, right? And then what a lot of the entrepreneurs don't tell you, or you hear less about the less successful stories,
Yes.
is that actually it can take years and years to, really make money and get your thing off the ground. So, and I'm sure a lot of your audience will have that experience. The success stories also have a lot of failures and a lot of
Yeah.
years of
Yeah.
toughness that they don't really share. And I wish they would share more of
I
those
mean,
because that gives you a reality check,
But this is it, because that's the reason primarily why I started this show is to show that other side, not to so much scare people, but to give people a more balanced view that there are successes, and people like yourself, you're there, you've got your venture off the ground, and it's sustainable, but also what it takes to you got to go through your trials and tribulations, but you can still get somewhere, with a plan and with foresight. And this is the reason that I've set up this radio show. So no, please carry on.
And I'm so pleased you're doing that because most people just share their successes
Yeah,
and talk
yeah.
about how to be successful. And if you follow your passion, you'll get there. They don't talk about the journey to get there and how
Mm-mm.
tough it can be. And there is many people who don't make it that do.
Yeah.
So well done for showing the reality on the other side. I'm so pleased you're doing this.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yeah, then what happened to me was I didn't have a ton of capital behind me and I didn't have a ton of savings. So I ended up using all my savings that year. In fact, I had to move in with my parents again.
Oh
And
dear.
I went back to work. I went back to work because I needed the money and I thought I'll build this up on the side. And really, I wish I'd known that because that's the route I would have taken always. I would still say do what you want to do, but,
Yeah.
kind of be balanced about if you don't have a ton of money and savings, then it might take longer for it to materialize, but it's less stressful. And having some money coming in means you can throw it also at your marketing. It also means you can go out and have a bit of fun. And when you're having
Yeah.
fun, everything's that much easier as well. You're not
Exactly.
always grumpy and stressed.
Yeah. Well, I do know some people who are self-employed and stuff, and they seem to be in that state of just being.
Well, because
Yeah.
it's really tough,
Yeah.
like you don't need your life to be so tough. You
Mm.
can find a more balanced way of doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, then what and also the other pitfall which I wish I'd known, I guess, is that whatever you start out with, like I've now since discovered 90% of the times or a lot of the times, what you think your idea is and what you start out with, after a bit of experience, it will really evolve and change into something else.
Truly. Truly. Yeah.
Honestly, so the thing that you become successful at will really evolve. It won't be the first idea you have. That would just be a stepping stone.
Hmm.
So, again, that's another pitfall that if you think you're going to make money off the first idea you have, that's also rare. It's kind of a bit of research and a bit of practice and trial and error to evolve into the thing that's going to happen. So yeah, my life coaching journey was tough. I didn't make that much money. There were a billion life coaches out there, and then I realized I need to specialize in something, and that was only going to come through experience. So I
Yeah.
went back to work, and I did a few things. I might take breaks in between my contracts
Yeah.
to spend some more time on the coaching, but I was working evenings and weekends, and I didn't mind so much.
Hmm.
So I was doing that, and then I got into career coaching. I specialized in career coaching
Okay.
and I've got all that experience. And actually, I've now developed something called a RID coaching model over time through clients and through research.
Yeah.
And I can talk about that a little bit later. But I've developed a special model that's now mine and something I really believe in.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'd even, started working 4 days a week because I wanted one day of rest because I didn't want to burn out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like having fun, and I wasn't prepared to sacrifice my social life
Mm.
and all that completely. And so I guess you also need to take a reality check of what you are prepared to sacrifice and what you aren't, and I wasn't prepared to do that.
Hmm.
So I just moved to a 4 day week. That meant I still had a day off in the week, and then I had 2 days and a few evenings to carry on with the coaching, which is obviously means it's taken me longer and slower to get there, but it's been a less stressful and a more pleasurable journey for me.
Mm. I mean, I want to explore that at some point because I sometimes I do feel people they tend to think that it's somehow some magic in just working, and I'm slightly off a different school of thought where if you plan and if you make your work efficient, you always somehow manage to have your own time anyway. So I mean, I think we should touch upon that later. But Karen, please.
So you're saying that if you kind of go for it's just about being efficient with what you
Yes,
do.
that's right. Exactly. Yeah.
And that's a good point actually. And I think that's a really good point because when you do your own thing, you could be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week because there's always that little bit more you can do, that little bit more you can do. And I think you have to know when to kind of draw a line. And you also, it's the 80-20 rule, isn't it? Like the
Yeah.
last 20% isn't going to get you that many results. And you can put a lot of effort for a little reward back.
Exactly.
So you kind of know if you've done the 4 or 5 big things for the day, then you know you've done enough and you can call it a day. So it's about, yeah, learning to follow which things are going to deliver the most value for you, I
Because
guess.
the only reason why I say it because I was speaking of myself because I used to be self-employed. It's not a bad thing, but in a way, I wish I knew that just partnering with people and working in a completely different way would have given me much more of a work-life balance. I mean, I was at work from sun up to sundown every day, and I was totally grumpy, and I just didn't really want
Ye-
to go back to the job. It was good money, but it was just I was just there 24/7 basically, and it was not a good experience.
And when you moved to working for yourself, what kind of hours were you doing then?
Well, it was just early because I was it was well just it was building work, electrician and stuff. So any contract that I went for was just out there. I just used to go for them. This is when I was single as well, so I've got a family now. So you go out there and you just chase the money, chase the money, chase the money. You find that you just coming into your house, getting up, going into your house, getting up, going out, and I wasn't really living what I was making. If you understand me.
Yeah, and I think that's when I was talking about not being able to be yourself because you
Mm,
just get up and
exactly.
you do go and you just do the motions for the sake of it just because you want to
Exactly.
get paid, right?
That's right. Exactly.
And yeah, and so this is much more rewarding. And I guess the hours you put in and how you prioritize your time is totally at your flexibility.
That's it. That's
So
it.
if you have a morning errand, you can work 2 till 2 at night, doesn't matter, or you can, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So yeah, the flexibility, I mean, definitely there are lots of rewards to kind of working for yourself, and I would encourage anyone who wants to do that, to actually go ahead and do that. But I think unless you do have a ton of money and savings, and unless you are willing to make some serious sacrifices, you
Yeah.
might want to pick that middle road for a little while
Mm,
until you get that tipping point, till you have enough momentum.
yeah.
And that middle road, while it takes longer, I found it less stressful anyway.
Well, exactly, because sometimes I think when people they always hear about like entrepreneurialism and they hear about the success stories and like you said, and I've done the same thing. I just left. I had a steady job and I just left because I felt that this was whatever venture I had in my head was way better, and I just went through it fully without even having the balance view that you do need some kind of income whilst you're doing your venture. Um, and I think what it is, people tend to have this very bad view of work. Even, they may not even like it or whatever, but you have to stick it, knowing that you're working towards something else. And anyway, you're buying yourself out of your own job when your venture finally takes off. And I think that really needs to, especially from my audience who are listening, to take that home. That even if you do dislike your job that much, stay there. Don't just go. Stay there until your venture is on par with your wage, and then you can move away safely into your venture.
Absolutely. I mean, what you've said is just spot on because, just getting up and quitting, it's just not very
It's
helpful.
like
You need money to throw at your business for the marketing, to generate leads. And so, it's kind of like what they call from going from the frying pan into the fire.
yeah, yeah,
And you need to be careful. And what's funny, what I found is when I was doing my coaching in the evenings and weekends and I had clients, actually my job was more bearable because my job was kind of my escape from actually it was the escape from the coaching, and it still
yeah,
gave me money. I interacted with people,
yeah.
and it wasn't my end all and be all. That's not what I woke up for. It was only
Mm,
part of my day, and that actually made my job suddenly more bearable and more fun, and I valued it a lot more.
mm, it's quite interesting.
Yes, it can put a new perspective on your job. I think when your job is that's all you have all day and no other passion, and that can really feel like a heavy burden. But when it's just part of your day and it's just one of the things that brings in money, you treat it a bit lighter and then it just becomes more pleasurable.
Yeah, because you're not really. I'm not. Well, in a way, you are type of. You're more focused, but you're focused on different stuff rather than, like you said, like it's the only thing you've got. You've got something else, and it kind of just it takes the pressure off your back. Basically, is that what you're trying to say?
It absolutely takes the pressure off, and it takes the pressure off, wanting to be really good at your job, wanting to get ahead. This is just an in the meantime position. And so you do your best while you're there, but you don't need to do the extra bit because you want to save your energy for something else. You don't really care what your boss thinks, whether you're going to get a promotion, all those things become less important. And that takes the pressure away because those are the things that, make jobs very stressful anyway.
Mm. So transitioning on from that, I mean, but the day that when you finally your venture started overtaking in terms of finance, I mean, what did that feel like? That must have you must have felt like a genius at that time.
Well, it had, I mean, it had been a long and, a long journey with, definitely very many trying moments.
Hmm.
But I'm really glad I persevered with it. And it felt really good when I hit the tipping point to be able to go, Okay, but in a way, I kind of felt like I had earned it and I really deserved it because I had worked hard at it for years.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it wasn't like I didn't feel like I'd gotten lucky. I felt like, okay, it's about time because I've really been working at this thing for
Right.
quite a while.
Mm.
But it felt really good. Actually, it felt quite liberating, I have to say.
Mhm.
It felt amazing. It felt liberating. And there were four, I'll just talk your audience through four other things that they need to be aware of is
Okay.
if you kind of move from a job to an entrepreneur thing, there's a shift in mindset that really needs to happen. And it really took me a while to get familiar with that shift in mindset because I'd worked for so long.
Mhm.
And one of the things is that you need to move from a mindset of being structured to unstructured. So, in a job, there's a monthly salary, in most cases anyway.
Yeah.
There's a set routine, so you turn up to work at 8, 9, you leave at 5, 6. Your day's pretty structured. Deadlines are imposed. You have deliverables, you have reports. But when you move to yourself, you can wake up at 10, you can wake up at 6. No,
Yeah.
you dictate your own day, and it's quite difficult.
It, that's what I'm so glad you pointed out because you in a way people say I want to be my own boss, I want to be my own boss, and I'm thinking you don't quite understand what it means when you go through this for quite a while, you end up being your own worst boss because there's none of this. You have to put all these things in place, and you often sometimes, in my case, I forget, and I can lapse sometimes and really just not do what I'm supposed to be doing.
Easily. And the thing is, the deadlines are your own.
Yeah.
So if you slip a deadline or you don't do something, you can move it to tomorrow, you can move it to next week. And
What?
you have to be really disciplined. And it's
Mm,
really hard because
yeah.
you're no accountable to no one. And that's
Exactly.
very quite difficult.
It very is. It is. No.
So that's a big shift in mindset. If people who are used to structure and deadlines and routine, forget it. Just totally out the window.
So in essence, like in order to make that shift, like you said, you have to be disciplined and try and figure out a way where you can work, but not overwork yourself, but work in a balanced way.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing to do really is to set yourself some goals.
Hmm.
And if you set yourself some goals and you slip from them, then oh my God, this goal is getting further and further away.
Yeah.
Another thing that's always helped me all along is I've always had like a coach. So
Mm.
although I'll set the deadlines, I'm then accountable to somebody else. So if, every 2 weeks I turn up to my coach and I've slipped again, I'm gonna get pretty embarrassed. So,
So I mean,
and the coach,
no,
and yeah, sorry, go on.
no, no. So I mean, most people wouldn't think that because you do coaching, they must think, oh, you must know all the answers and stuff like that. But you have your own coach as well on top of that to keep
You
your
do.
yeah.
And the thing is, that's why I know the value of coaching and the
Mm.
power of being accountable to someone
Yeah.
else keeping you on track. And it's very hard for us to kind of ask ourselves the right question. It's hard to take a step back sometimes,
Very
whereas the other person will make you have that step back.
well. You just have a kind of internal blind spot. 'Cause that's, like I said, I can be my own worst boss sometimes. There's just no accountability. It's like I just almost take a day off, and I've got plenty of things to do. And it is my partner who tells me, don't you have to do it?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah," but and then she has to force me to do it, and I sit down and do it. So really, I kind of have my own coach.
Yeah, so if you have a partner you're accountable to, then
Yeah.
that does the same job, absolutely. But I think it's important to have somebody, else to share where your progress and stuff with. Otherwise, sometimes you don't even step back and take stock of where you're at. You just
Mm,
do, and you don't actually think about where you're at and where you're
true.
going. So the other thing I would say is, the pace at which you work has to be really, really instant. So, in most jobs, first of all, the pace is always quite slow. Deadlines are never like, we need to do this in 2 hours. We need to make a phone call now. It's like,
Yeah.
there's a decision-making process and there's a committee and then there's further analysis and then they go and think about it. So
Mm,
from the time an idea is born to the time something happens, it's a long time. time and a lot of
Yeah.
faffing time, and there's a whole team there anyway.
Yeah.
This is just you. You get a hot lead. You've got to follow it up in 2 hours or within the day and act on it. Otherwise, tomorrow it's gone, you know?
Yeah.
It's got to be that quick. Some guy says, you're an entrepreneur. Some guy says, send me a proposal, send me an email. You do it before you go to bed. If you don't, somebody else will do it tomorrow and
Well, yeah,
you'll be
exactly.
gone.
Yeah, yeah. You got to be like the workflow is like you said. It's more immediate. And you have to be very good at that perceiving. What it is that what you're doing and how you're presenting yourself and position whatever it is that you're doing as a business, to make that decision quite immediate.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things I've learned is not to strive for perfection. Because
Mm,
when you try and strive for perfection, that's what takes long. And it's the last 20% that we talked about.
yeah,
Just speak from your heart, use your gut, 80%, and then just go for it.
yeah.
Crossing those T's and dotting those I's just isn't going to do you any favors in this fast pace.
And it does when you got the energy to do something like you strike while the iron's hot, so to speak. It's this somehow there's energy behind it. But when you, like you said, you try and plan, you look at all these things and dotting your i's and crossing your t's, and then by the time your passion's fizzled out, when you read the proposal, you're not going to really say it the way that you would have done, and all those sort of things. It does have a big factor when you try and over plan and try and over perfect things.
Absolutely. And the same thing with the person, when you've had a conversation, like say you and I have had one, we've connected, we need to do something about it
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah,
Otherwise, I'm going to meet three other people next week and I'll forget who you are. And then
yeah.
our moment's gone. Somebody else's moment will come in really
Well,
quickly.
exactly, because the human mind works on what's most immediate and only can remember so far.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's a really big shift about I had, like in corporate environments, especially where I work, they really go for perfection, and I had
Mm,
to really learn to go 80%, you're there, you're next on the line, just go for it.
mm.
And that was a big one for me personally.
I mean, as a kind of short segue, I mean, do you think that's why a lot of people they tend not to go into the world, or they fail in a sense with entrepreneurialism? Is that they want things to be so perfect, and 'cause I know some people they got this product in their head and this idea, and it's like it's 2 years in. I'm like, just get something out there and try and do something, because the only way you're gonna know is if you interact with people, and then they can give you a better take on the reality if they want your product or not. But they're thinking, no, 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 I've got to do all this and I've got to do that. What do you say to that?
You've got the nail on the head on that one. People who procrastinate,
Yeah.
somebody else by then is going to steal the idea and just take it to market, or
Mm,
somebody else is, or by then, again, the moment will pass and, technology or something else will take over. I have a friend who kind of strives for perfection. Everything she does has to be perfect. But I think sometimes that's also a way of procrastinating.
I always have that kind of like idea in the back of my head as well. Because if you believe in what you're doing, you want to share it straight away. As far as I'm concerned, and you don't mind what it looks like initially. You can always tweak and change as you go along. But I definitely,
Absolutely.
I think you're right. Sometimes people use the perfection model as I say as a means to it will never be perfect, so therefore it will never be done.
Absolutely. She uses that as procrastination. I think other people do as well. And I think behind that procrastination there's different things. Sometimes people have a fear, or
Yeah,
they're not quite ready to go all out, or they don't believe in themselves. There's other reasons, but it is a procrastination method sometimes.
definitely.
Because when you're excited about something, who wants to sit at home perfecting it? You want to be out there with it, don't you?
The
You
energy
can't
would take
wait to
yeah,
get it out there.
yeah, yeah. The energy would take you itself. You just think, well, I've got to share this. I've got to talk. This is the best thing since last bread. I've got to get out there now, now, now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you
It's,
can't. You don't want to sit
yeah,
at home with it.
no way, no way. So so what's next on your list in terms of the
Yeah, so the other
yeah.
two things I would say,
Mm,
actually, the next one, what we've talked about nicely leads to the next thing, which is about commitment.
mm,
So really, you really have to believe in your idea so that you can fully support it. And I guess what I was saying, sometimes people procrastinate because they don't either believe in the idea or they don't believe in themselves. And you really have to believe in your idea. I mean, I think it's Paul McKenna who says, well, if you don't believe fully in your idea, why would you expect other people to pay you for it?
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Obviously. So, and they can see it. You can see when someone doesn't quite fully believe in what they're doing versus someone who does. So, if you're not committed fully to your idea, you know what? Step back and first get that commitment. Otherwise, just don't bother. And the other reason is, one thing we know for sure, we get challenges. Whatever you do, you'll get challenges. And when you're committed to success, a challenge will just be, okay, how do I get past this? Okay, how do I push past this? But when you're not committed and you get that same challenge, it's like, oh no, this has happened. What shall
yeah,
I do? Am I meant to do this? You start
yeah.
questioning
Any,
it. But when the
any,
commitment's
yeah,
there,
exactly. Any knock will just take you off your perch quite easily. And even well, I'll say I've had many a job and stuff, and some jobs I've just gone into, and I just didn't really. It wasn't me. And anything that happened, it was just like, oh, I'll just find every single excuse on the planet. But when it was something that I enjoyed, no matter what happened, I just kind of surmounted it and just got through it. So you're dead correct there.
yeah. So, and that's, you've seen the living proof of how important commitment is, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing that for me was a big learning was that you have to shift from being safe to being a complete risk taker. And
Mm,
I guess it's kind of some of the things we've already talked about,
yeah.
but it also means you can't afford to be shy. you
No.
you can't you have to be out there networking, you have to be out there marketing, selling. You've got to keep asking, and 9 out of 10 times, or 9 out of 10 leads will just amount to a no, or they'll amount to nothing.
Yeah.
But you can't be afraid to ask. You can't be afraid to fail. You can't take rejection personally. So, that's a really important thing.
Yeah. I mean that's the thing that kind of surprises me. Um, I just don't know if it's just the way my mind is wired. Is that you have a voice, use it. You speak to people, and like you said, if they say no, even if they say yes, whatever the situation is, you're gonna come across a lot of negatives before you get to that positive. That's been every single entrepreneur I've spoken to. That's been the the experience. You just can't get around it, but it helps you and it strengthens you in the long run if you stay the course. But a lot of people on the flip side, they like to use that to say, oh no, because every 10 people have said no today. I'm not going to do this venture. This is just completely not for me. So I think you're right in that respect.
Yeah, and you don't realize, and I've only realized working with people, most people are quite shy, and most people don't like, I mean, nobody likes to be rejected, but people then take rejection really personally. So if you
Yes.
combine being shy with hating rejection,
Yeah.
people just
Yeah.
don't ask, and you can't afford not to be out there if you're an entrepreneur.
It's something that you got to really exactly. It's not personal. People say no for all sort of reasons, and this is when you keep at it, you find out that that's what the case is, and so they may not be ready for you whatever you're offering, or they may not see where you're going, so they need more information, or may need more clarity. So you can get round that no. I've had that experience where people have said no to me in the past. Now they're saying yes to me now because they can see where I'm going. They can see exactly the line I'm taking. So it's something that's to you have, like you said, be committed and stay with it, and you will see what it is. Your venture will work out and be sustainable.
Yeah, and I guess that then links back to the commitment. If you
Yeah,
are really committed, then you have to pick up all these other traits.
yeah,
Otherwise, you're just not going to be successful. And for me, I really like to tell people to really trust and follow your gut, because there's no right way of doing anything, and this is
truly,
your
truly.
venture.
Yeah.
So really tap into your intuition and your gut instinct all the time.
Hmm.
And I think that will link you back to, what we were talking right at the beginning about doing the things that add the most value. Use your intuition to go, oh, this doesn't feel like a hot lead or a serious guy or a serious client.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
some of that's just experience, and some is just kind of a gut feel, I guess.
Hmm.
So those are really the main kind of mindset shifts that I um personally kind of experienced. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Well, with the when you because I know a lot of people in the business world, they always say, trust your instincts, but always have some kind of mad, detailed, crazy plan or something. And I always agree with what you say. Sometimes you can't wait for that detailed plan of anything. You just have to just go with something and think, well, if I don't say anything now, I'll get my foot in the door at least. I know I will never know what happened, because by the time I've done all this planning and stuff and all this writing down and all the rest of it, it's gone. So you'll be late at the door. So no, definitely you have to follow that instinct sometimes and just kind of buck the trend in terms of what other people would otherwise advise.
And what I've also realized is, a lot of people are quite busy. So actually, a lot of people just glance at what you send them. They don't even read it like in detail just because they haven't got the time. So as long as they get the gist of what you're saying and you've been clear and articulated it, they get it.
Hmm. Truly. All right. So with Deck, I did read your biography and stuff, and when you said you had to do your new venture, you had to basically learn new skills, i.e., learning how to use the social media and so forth. I mean, can you speak to that?
Yeah, oh God. So, obviously, I'm an accountant and I worked in the corporate. So the skill set I had was the skill set I had. And you need a
Mm.
whole new kind of, it's not just a mindset, but you do need a different kind of skill set as well to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
So, and nowadays social media is like so hot, everybody's
yeah,
using it. And it's a really difficult one because I'm not a fan of social media and I really don't like using it. But
yeah.
then it's kind of, I think, well, I mean, some people opt still not to use it, but I think, you kind of have to learn how to use social media. So I'm finding that one is still something I'm battling with, how much to learn and how much to use it, because I really struggle with the social media. But I had to learn, use Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and create a Facebook page and because that's how people work these days. And then I didn't know about anything about marketing and sales.
Hmm.
My technology was limited to literally opening up an internet browser and
Right.
browsing.
Okay.
But I didn't have the money to throw at it to
Yeah.
pay someone to do all this for me. So I had to learn. So it's been quite difficult. But the technology is quite user friendly these days, to be honest. And the marketing and sales is just experience. The thing I still battle with is the social media.
Yeah, I mean, with that, because like again, there's plenty of people that you can tap into to help you on that one. But yeah, it's a thing where you just have to keep plugging away and partnering up with someone who knows how to use it, and basically just building your audience and stuff. And that's what I tend to always lean towards and stuff. So again, it's one of those things where you have your business, but then when you use social media, it's a kind of another time lag in terms of eyeballs, attention, being brought to your particular outlet in the social media. So no, that will definitely, once you keep plugging away, it will find its own life, and you'll be surprised at what you can achieve from that. So definitely keep plugging away.
Have you found that it's been quite useful for you then?
For myself, yes. For other ventures I've tried before, it just didn't take off anywhere. But with this, especially with this one, the radio show is really just is taken off in a way that I didn't expect, to be honest.
It's through social media.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I think maybe it's just because I'm kind of new at it, and I think when you're new and building up your databases and learning how to use it, or maybe that's why it feels a bit burdensome. But yeah, I guess what I was saying earlier about the commitment, and I just have to persevere with it because I guess maybe once you learn to use it, it just gets easier. Because the moment it's taking up a lot of my time and it's
yeah,
detracting me from the coaching, but maybe over time I'll get faster and better at it.
yeah. I mean, there's different various methods that, like online videos, so you don't have to necessarily be uh, on online all the time. Someone can just go into a particular link, and because they're asking the same questions all the time, pretty much you can put something together where they can find remedy with whatever it is that they're looking for. So that's pretty much, and I'll be doing something like that myself anyway, because like you said, it does without even you realizing take up your time, very.
I think that's why I don't like it because I can be on my computer and I can be on Facebook and LinkedIn
Yeah,
and Twitter for hours and then I don't have,
yeah.
I feel like I haven't got anything to show for it
Mm.
for all that time. But I'm sure it pays back
It will,
eventually.
it will, it will, it will. I've been assured by marketing experts that it will it will somehow pay off in the long run. But as long as you're focused and the message that you're sending out is what do you call it, congruent, and it stays within what you're doing, that it should translate. It would definitely translate. Okay. Moving on to 'cause I know I want to hear about your the coaching. Was it the RID coaching model?
Yeah, so my RID coaching model,
Yeah.
basically my coaching model is based around setting goals and doing the actions. But why this model is quite unique is the first step, and the first step is, so RID stands for reflect, imagine, and do. Those are my three steps. And the first step is the step I found a lot of coaches didn't take time to do. And reflect is I check out your internal state. So it's nothing to do with your goals, nothing to do with your aspirations. It's really, okay, I just want to know how you're feeling about yourself. Are you feeling good? Are you feeling. Hi, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I think something happened. A glitch.
Sorry, I don't know what show. Yeah, I
It's a,
lost you too, and I
yeah,
couldn't
that's
reconnect.
okay.
Sorry.
Those very bad gremlins. We'll deal with them afterwards. No, I think you're going through the RID coaching model, and you're talking about the first steps you've got to take before you even set
Yeah.
goals. Yeah, yeah. So please carry on.
Yeah, so the RID is, the first stage, reflect, is the most important stage because that's where I check out your internal state. And if your internal state isn't right, your goals are going to be really limiting, and your vision of the world is going to be quite small. And also, you're not going to believe you have the strength or the ability to go out and achieve what you want. So that I really spend a lot of time on getting your self-belief and your confidence right. And from that place, you can do anything.
Definitely. So, because I think, and especially I usually in the past, well, even now, really, I still when I set a goal, and if I'm not really, I may be down that day, or I'm not in my right self. The goal you set really isn't, it's not even worth even bothering with, to be honest. So I
It
think you go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say you've got it exactly right. And it's even as simple as going to the gym. Some people, when you're feeling good and you go to the gym, you do an amazing workout. Whereas if you're, not in the mood and you go to the gym, you might as well not go.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get your mind set straight, or even your emotions in place if you're not in the right place at all. So what's next on the RID coaching model?
So once we've got the confidence right and the spirit and the spark back up, then the next thing is imagine. So imagine is all around the setting the goals. And I always say make sure your goals are a little bit stretching but realistic. So, I always kind of say to people, imagine putting your hand up and then stretch it another foot, which you can always do, and then stretch it another foot. And that extra foot is a little bit out of your reach, but it's still doable. You can imagine that's where your goal should be, just a little bit out of reach after you've stretched yourself.
Hmm.
And what I then say is also break it down into really some short-term goals and long-term goals. And the short-term goals are really quick wins that will happen quickly and they'll give you the momentum.
Yeah.
And that momentum will really drive you forward to believe you can hit the long-term goal. And then you can have stepping stones for your long-term goal. But I think it's important to have some very quick wins to get the momentum and get your self-belief up and, realize, oh my God, I can do all this.
Truly. So with people who they may be reticent to setting goals. That's basically the best process to do a check of where you are at internally, and then you can set external goals. Is essentially what the RID coaching model is all about.
Yes. And then the third thing is the action. But I think by the time you've done the first two steps, the actions kind of almost follow quite quickly and naturally.
Cool. Okay, so we're nearing our time. I know the little gremlin came and but I'll have a word with him later on. But yeah, any final thoughts to give to any budding entrepreneur looking to strike out on their own?
Yeah, so I would say, despite what I said, if you really want to strike out on your own, honestly, go for it. Be committed. If you want to take the halfway approach, go for it. But honestly, the rewards are totally, totally worth it. When it does all happen, it's just magic and it makes the whole journey worthwhile. It really is worth it. So if you have a dream or you want to go for it, honestly, go for it. And maybe get yourself a good mentor who you can, role model from. That always helps me.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, and to add to that, like, like just build something that they can speak to you. Or definitely, obviously, I'm going to allow you to plug your website and all the rest of it. But this is the steps, especially from my audience, anyone listening. Striking out on your own is good, but try and build a small team if you can of coaches, mentors, people who can definitely hold your hand at the first initial stage, because through experience, let me tell you now, it can be brutal sometimes in the business world. So you have to have that fortitude and someone to speak to when the day gets hard. And you will see your venture go to new heights. When you definitely put things in place, all of what I said in place into action and stuff. So any more thoughts, any things, or you just want to just plug your website so people can contact you and utilize your service?
Yeah, so I do a program called the Four Fastest Ways to Advance Your Career. And in it are a lot of tips about your self-belief. And although it's kind of focused on career, it's the same thing on entrepreneurship, about the self-belief and the confidence. So I would encourage people to sign up to those tips. And if they like those tips, then they can sign up to a newsletter and the tips are free. And then they can sign up to newsletters. I run a meetup group. And I also do workshops. And the best thing also to do is to connect up to my Facebook page where I post updates and things.
Okay.
So I guess I can send you the link to put on your website, but the my website's called www.meeracareercoaching.com.
Okay. And that's where all the other stuff, all the other details are there as well, yeah?
Yeah, so that's where they can find me on Facebook, and that's where they can sign up to my 4 tips as well.
Okay then. Can I hold you over to the other side whilst I finish up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay then. So thank you, Amira Shah, for coming onto the show. I'm really pleasured to have you.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure to be on.
Okay then. So listeners, you heard it. Yeah, you got to be, you got to have a stock of yourself. You got to have, total control of your goals to get out there and to, apply your trade or with whatever venture you have. But please do it with a good balanced approach. Don't leave work too soon. Do it part time and then see where it goes. Okay, so this is the Entrepreneur Wilderness Radio Show. Your host today is Oyena Olabala. Stay tuned.